forget where it is. So, MacArthur's, yeah. So, we have any prayers? Things I've had around, it's Calvin and Hobbes. You can see it on the there's some handouts here too. But I always thought it was interesting. In the first part there, he says, it's true, Hobbes, that ignorance is bliss. And it says, once you know things, you start seeing problems everywhere. And once you see problems, you feel like you ought to try to fix them. And fixing problems always seems to require personal change. And change means doing things that aren't fun. And I say pooey to that. But if you're willfully stupid, you don't know any better, so you can keep doing whatever you like. The secret to happiness is short-term, stupid self-interest. And so then the cat says, we're heading for that cliff. And he says, I don't want to know about it. And when they land on the bottom, he says, I'm not sure I can stand so much bliss. And the kid says, careful, we don't want to learn anything from this. And that seems like sometimes how if you don't get the Lord in your life, that's kind of how your life can be, because you can see some people that go through life like that and just want to tell them there's other answers, and the Lord's the answer, but they don't always pay attention. So I want to talk about tonight is I started off with helping the poor, and then as I was reading the scripture and things about the poor, it always seemed like it was mentioned the needy and afflicted and things in there like that. And the poor. What's your thoughts on who? What do you think? What's poor? Who's someone you think is poor? Is it just somebody with no money? That's certainly poor in one way. Doesn't it seem? It seems like a lot of times the way it comes to my mind is someone with no money. You're poor. Those people are poor. They don't have any money. And needy. What do you think biblically? What they're describing when they say needy?
In the Bible, they're talking about widows that don't have children that are supporting them.
Right, and widows, and I'm guessing needy. You could look at all kinds of things. People that have, for those of most everybody knows here, but this is where I base my thoughts on, as being a paramedic with Tucson Fire for 24 years. I'd say 80% of the 911 calls we go to poor and needy. And needy in that sense is mentally needy. They don't have Christ is a big problem there, but some of them, they got problems. And it'd be interesting to know we believe in our heart, but that Christ would solve a lot of their problems, but still sometimes people just have problems. They can't keep a job, they have alcohol problems, they have drug problems, and consequently if it's a lady and she has kids, that causes family problems. I mean, I would say needy covers a wide scope of things, wouldn't you imagine? Because it appears to me in our society right now, we're in could call it a fortunate time, but there's not a lot of people who go hungry. There's really not. I don't see it. I mean, you might miss a meal, but there's no poor, starving kids out there. So as far as poor as money, I mean, you could argue, I guess my argument is that it's not going to be, as far as helping people, it's not at this time going to be as productive helping the poor, because there are so many programs that help them there, but there are plenty of needy. If you put into your definition of needy as people with mental problems, people with drug addiction problems, people with foster kids, problems, things like this. So there's plenty of needy. Well, let's go over this and then we'll end on some of that. So God's concern for the needy. Do I have that? Can you see that, or do I need to move this? Okay, so if you want to put up Psalms 140:12. See if it's the same as mine. And I know that the Lord upholds the just cause of the poor and justice for the needy. What do you think justice for the needy means? I would think so, because that, for me, it comes to my mind is through our legal system, right? Justice for all, this kind of thing, that they're not taking advantage of the needy. And the needy, again, is people who are easy to take advantage of because their mental capacities are challenged, I guess you could say. So let's go to Isaiah 25:4. For you have been a stronghold for the poor, a stronghold for the humble person in his distress, a refuge from the rain, a shade from the heat, and when the breath of the violent is like rain against the wall. See if I had a different, that didn't ring a bell there. And I don't know which one it's from, it says, for you have been a defense for the helpless and a defense for the needy in his distress. So this is God's concern for the poor and the needy. So I would say, because there's over, when you talk about the poor and the needy, there's over 300 references in the Bible that talks about this. So obviously it's a concern. It's a concern of the Lord. All right, so let's go to God's commands concerning them. Proverbs 31:8 and 9. Yeah, and you know what? I looked. It was in my Bible that I took this out of.
Yeah, I just find those nuances in the Hebrew interesting because they're
Yeah.
not always obvious.
Yeah,
Right.
They're completely different. One talks about preserving us from the heat.
Well, let's go back to that then. Which one was that? That was Isaiah 25:4. Sorry, Sally. So this one says, you have been a stronghold for the poor. So that means they're talking about the poor here. A stronghold for a humble person in his distress. So a humble person in his distress. What do you think? What do you think that's saying? A strength to the needy. So it used needy again? Okay. Okay. For that has been a stronghold of the poor, a stronghold to the needy in his distress, a refuge from the storm. I mean, I'm taking that a refuge from the storm is because you're helping people that are in a storm, a shade from the heat. This is just giving us personal examples of, do you think, or do you see something else there? Is it?
I live in Arizona. It's talking about the heat.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, my interpretation there, unless somebody else has different, it's covering the needy. Then it uses some more some examples that we can.
I wish I brought the Hebrew text.
Well, and we can talk about it later too, which it would be good, and we can bring it up again. So, all right. So then let's go to Proverbs, and this that's the concern. So we've established that the Lord is concerned for the poor, and now we want to talk about His commands concerning the poor and needy, and that's going to be dealing with Proverbs 31:8 and 9. Speak up for those who have no voice, for the justice of all who are disposed. So speak up and judge righteously and defend the cause of the oppressed and the needy. Who is it that has no voice? What's that? Do you think that's what it's talking about? Only that? Only that, but you're right, and that would be. I don't get the impression that he's only talking about that, because I know that the people that we deal with on the 911 calls that deal with the police and everything, you might, I don't know. I don't know what people's impressions are, but for the most part, those people can get treated pretty bad and they don't complain, because they know it doesn't do any good to complain. When the bums go up and complain, nobody listens to them. They're pretty much stuck with whatever their thing is. I mean, the news people will get a poor that seem to complain a little too much, but for the most part, they have no power in the system at all.
Well, I know in most legal systems, both presently and historically, those that are poor and needy have no voice
Yeah.
in the justice system because they don't have the money to push their voice.
And they don't have the knowledge. And here's the blatant truth on the fire department. When you're in the poor part of town, you can make fun of those people. They'll never complain. You don't go to where the rich retired people are, because they know how the complaint system works, and they'll turn you in. But the poor people, there's some crews out there that are reasonably mean. There's some, police officers that are a little mean. And there's sometimes those guys, they deserve a certain amount of it too, but they don't complain because they don't know how to, they don't care to, they just don't. And for the most part, some of them deserve that, but there's some of them that don't deserve that have no access to. So there is definitely, from what I've seen, there is plenty of them that have no voice.
Let's remember, though, the Bible tells us that we deserve eternal hell, so we don't have to give people what they deserve, because God doesn't give us what we deserve.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, Ron. Yeah, and it's a tough thing. That's how it kind of works. Okay, so commands concerning the poor. We need to plead our cause for the poor and needy, and open our mouth to judge for the righteous and stuff. Okay, so let's go to James 1:27 for more commands concerning the poor. Pure and undefiled religion before our God and Father is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. So here it's talking about orphans and widows. And I had in mind, because I read that one too, but mine said, what do you think unstained means? Keep oneself, to look after orphans, widows in their distress, and keep oneself unstained by the world. What does keep oneself unstained by the world mean? Keep from being corrupted. I found a couple different words there. One was unspotted and polluted. Keep yourself unspotted or unpolluted. I'm not sure I know I've heard spotted used before, but I don't know. But so, how do you think that works? So how doing that, how does that keep you from being polluted by the world?
I think the analogy of a boat in a sea, is, that boat, even though the sea is really big, as long as no water gets inside the ship, it's going to float. And that's what I think of being unstained and unspotted, is not letting all that bad water get into me and sink my soul.
Do you think this could be indicating that you need to be aware of orphans, widows, the poor, the distressed? Because if you're not, that means the world has polluted you? Yeah, if you're not aware of them, if you're not making an effort to help them, or am I going too far on my own thoughts there? Do you think it means that, or? Right, right. So it seems like that's a reasonable thought there. And some of the thoughts that I have here is that from these things, it says the message here is very simple. You need to help the needy. It's not hard to understand, but it's kind of hard to do. When you see the needy, do we like hanging around with the needy? Is our church full of needy people? That's it's difficult to help them because it's hard to understand them. The way we think is, and I'm using us as because I know everybody here, but the way we think is, you get out and work, you feel good about it, you're productive, you take care of yourself as best you can, you take care of your family and all this kind of stuff. Well, these people have a drinking problem or a drug problem, or they can't go to work, isn't it kind of hard to understand these people? How do you help someone you don't understand?
Like the verses that we've looked at so far imply that they are poor and needy as a result of no fault of their own.
Good point. I don't know. Are they?
Well, that's what it,
Yeah.
I mean, the poor, the widows and the orphans, that's through no fault.
Well, yeah, widows and orphans, that's not really a fault of their own.
I mean, all of these. It just seems to me, it's not top, I think there's a separation there.
So sometimes here, and I think in the United States, and I think it's a good argument, most people here, should there be anybody here needy? Or are they?
Any of the streets around here, particularly in Tucson, just about every street corner has somebody standing there with something asking for money, asking for handouts. They don't really need it.
So
They're taking advantage of the system.
So I hadn't thought of this, but so we need to find people. Do we need to find the ones that are truly needy? Or do we let the Lord find that? Because we're making the call. When you don't give them money or you give them money, that's He doesn't need that.
Well, the church has abdicated its responsibilities in this area. So now if you're poor and needy or an orphan or a widow, you don't go to the church for help, you go to government for help. That's how it is in our society this day. And
Right.
That's what I see going on.
But a good point, though, I hadn't even thought of. Are they needy because of their own fault, or are they needy because the Lord's put them there?
There's some place in scripture where it says something about those that are widows indeed. Yeah, for real. So I think there's concerning, and we can easily find widows and orphans and truly despondent people for no fault of their own who can give. So we don't have to make the judgment call on the street.
Yeah.
Because we knowably do it for bona fide purposes.
Yeah, I like that. Yes. Oh,
This might be a little controversial, but if you look at the New Testament way they did this, the churches Paul set up, the needy they took care of were the Jews back in Jerusalem and the people who came to the church. So the churches in the New Testament aren't taking care of all the needy and all the poor that just exist everywhere in society. They're taking care of people that are in the church. They're talking about people that are brothers and sisters in Christ. I can't think of anywhere in the Bible where they're taking up a collection for people that are just homeless or just out in society.
my thought comes to me as the guy that was begging that's always begged in one spot there, and then because he couldn't see or he'd always been that way.
The church didn't take up a collection for it. I'm talking about in the church structure. It seems like, Paul took up a collection for the
I don't know that I'm really talking about a church taking up a collection, though. I think what I'm trying to put the point for is our own personal observation to what's going on and us making an effort in our personal lives. I mean, that's a good point, though. I mean, certainly in the church, that would be an argument. It's not the argument I'm trying to make right now, though.
You're right, I guess it is two different things because we're gathered here together as a church and.
Right, and certainly we could, yeah, yeah. And you'll see where I'm going as I go along here. But that was an excellent point, too. That's two good points. Okay, and the message is continuous, what I found in there, about helping the needy. It's in the Torah, it's in the prophets and Psalms, it's in the Gospels, and it's all throughout the Bible. And the thought here is how many, if there's 300 times in the Bible talks about, and talks about helping the poor and the needy, how many churches emphasize serving the poor as much as the Bible itself does. But we're getting into good stuff here as far as figuring out who the needy is. And as I end this, the surprise is on the other side when I flip it over. I'm hoping that it'll make sense to you. But, okay, blessings on those who serve the poor and needy. That's Deuteronomy 15:10. Give to him and don't have a stingy heart when you give. Because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you do. That's one of the blessings that you have. Another one is Isaiah 58:10 and 11. And if you offer yourself to the hungry, satisfy the afflicted one, then your light will shine in the darkness and your night will be like noonday. And I looked up afflicted one, and that has a lot of different things there. It said there's a lot of different words that talk about that, but it's just like it sounds. It's people that are afflicted, that have been afflicted in different ways. Okay, 11. The Lord will always lead you, satisfy you in a parched land, strengthen your bones. You will be like a watered garden and like a spring whose water never run dry. So there's obviously advantages to helping the poor. I have Matthew 21. I don't think I got the rest of that. A cough only comes when you have one of these things on. Here's Matthew 21, and I'm not sure where that's at, but I'm going to read it. It said, Jesus said to him, if you want to be perfect, go sell what you have, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come and follow me. And we know those are that. Do you think Jesus is asking us to go beyond our comfort level in helping these people?
He always takes us beyond our comfort level if we're going to grow.
Especially when he says to sell what you have and give to the poor. Right, and he was a good example on that. Okay, so now we're going to go to the consequences of not serving the poor and needy. Ezekiel 16, 48, 49, and 50. The consequences of not serving the poor. As I live, the declaration of the Lord God, your sister Sodom and her daughters have not behaved as you and your daughters have. Now this was iniquity of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, plenty of food, comfortable security, but didn't support the poor and needy. Let's look at that a little bit. She had pride, plenty of food, and comfortable security. And what comes to mind is like me and Betsy were talking about, how my theory last time I talked was money was the great evil, but Betsy straightened me out and said pride is. So here's pride. They had pride. Plenty of food and comfortable security. I have a different thing in here. Let me read the next one, then I'll go back to that, because I think I had 50. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. so I removed them when I saw this. So what I have in here is kind of a different thing. She said, this is dealing with Sodom. It said, she and her daughters had pride, fullness of food, abundance of idleness, or careless ease. And neither did they strengthen the poor and needy. So when you see pride, fullness of food, and abundance of idleness, can you think of any country that has that? And don't we usually, what I've always referenced to this is that the sexual or more sexual problems is what caused God took them away as he saw fit. But this is almost saying it's because of pride, fullness of food, and careless ease. Is that true? Did I get that? Because that's easy at least it's easy for me to holler at people about the sexual part. Because, yes, Sally.
I think it's both, because in 59, it talks about, you're being lazy and you're doing these things you're not helping the poor. But then in 50, it goes on to say that they were haughty, and they also did detestable things. So it's probably
And also did detestable things? Okay. So, yeah. But I had never seen it put, this is where I learned from this, is that this was part of why he got rid of them, because they didn't see fit, is because of pride, fullness of food, and abundance of idleness. And I don't know that any country ever in the history of the world so far has had so much fullness of food. I mean, there's very few countries that have grocery stores like we do, that you can pick what you want to pick. And I don't even think half of them, other countries nowadays even had that. But but anyway, that's just because I'm the teacher and you see those kind of things and you like to point it out. Yes.
Well, don't you think that part of this helping the needy and the poor can be, like, we support missionaries that are in different countries, that, and those other countries are,
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
and if we
I would argue that they're more needy, though. And my argument's going to keep going, but you're certainly right there. But I don't think our needy is in the money. But from my job, 911 calls, there are some mentally needy people that we don't even see. They're thick out there, and you want to see some. There's plenty of them down there in certain parts of Benson, because you can deal with certain areas. Yep. And we're shelter ourselves from them, and I'm not sure what you do with them. But anyway, it can go back, because the good point is it their fault that they're needy? If it is, then that's kind of different from if the Lord made them needy. But I'm going to talk about some that the Lord, I shouldn't say the Lord made them needy, but they are truly needy. So yes.
But the word doesn't say to judge whether it's their fault that they're needy. If it just says to take care of the needy, then we're just to take care of them.
Oh, you're exactly right. And I'm using a human principle here just because I can. I kind of like the business side. But if I'm going to help people, I want to try to be the most productive. And that's my point here, is be the most productive. And if we can be the most productive in helping people that are truly needy, not on their own fault, I think that's a good point. That's a good point to help those. Yes, and I'm going to bring that up later.
A lot of people that are needy are caught in a trap, a downward spiral, that need help to reverse their life, because they're caught in the net. And,
Yeah.
That's what
And some are not going to get out of the net.
As far as delivering them from the net through counseling, through practical help.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I can guarantee you this right now, though, and you've probably seen him as you go and turn off on the 90 going that way. There's this old guy there. His name is Bill. And he asked me for a ride once, and I usually stop, try to talk to him a little bit. But he has congestive heart failure. I think he's like 48, 49. I gave him a ride over there because he couldn't walk very far. And I always surprise him when I give him money. He goes, "How's it going, Bill? You know my name?" And I don't even know why I remember his name. I can't remember half people's name as it is, but it just gets him going. But I can tell you, these are the people that I've taken in on the paramedic truck. Bill, and this is their usual story. Bill was a hard-working construction guy. He did a lot of drinking. While he was making money, he had a family, and things were going good. Construction does this, up and down. Bill lost his job, didn't have any money, got a divorce, And then, and he was hurting. But he's still drinking, but he's young. So he's a productive alcoholic, is kind of what they call him. He's still young. Construction went back up. He got going again. He was still able to work. Even though he had bad hangovers, he could still get stuff done. Construction thing dropped again, whether or not he got married in there again or not. Lost everything. Now he's like in his late 50s, early 60s. Bill has to drink every day. Has to, or he gets seizures. We go to him all the time. He can't quit. So he hangs out near a fast food place, because you can eat French fries 2 weeks old. They don't hurt you a bit. You can eat burgers a couple weeks old too. And that's what they do. And he uses his money to go get alcohol. Now, if you're mad at him for getting alcohol, so be it. Bill's going to die. We're going to go to him on a 911 call. Bill doesn't know his family. His kids don't like him. Nobody likes him. He has no reason to quit drinking. You can't holler out at Bill, get a job. He can't get a job. He can't quit drinking. He's old. He's got congestive heart failure. He doesn't even care. So what do you do? Then that's a needy guy that's just, he's never going to get out of the net. That's what, and that's the only saving thing you can do. But I don't know I don't know other than just saying, hi, Bill. I keep thinking I want to talk to him, but some of those guys don't really want to talk either, because they're used to people kind of trying to help them and then mess with them. But
I think that's what he was saying about foreign missions.
missions are great, you know.
Gospel grace
You know why missions are the best?
he does.
You know why missions are the best? Because I don't have to sacrifice for it. I just give money. I don't have to go deal with Bill. Somebody else does. And my point tonight is we need to start dealing with on our own personal basis. But I'm going to get to that here in a minute. And you're right. I'm just beating up on you because
I've been a
I can't.
missionary in a third world
Oh,
country
okay.
before, so I did have to go.
Right.
But, the gospel does raise people out of poverty more than throwing money at them does.
Right.
Governments are more likely to just throw money at us.
And it doesn't
than the
work.
problem. And the problem remains, of course, or gets
Right.
worse.
You're right. You're exactly right. Okay, Ezekiel 22, 29, and 31. This is still on the consequences of not serving the poor. 22, 29, that was fast. The people of the land have practiced extortion, committed robbery. They have oppressed the poor and needy and unlawfully exploited the foreign resident. I searched for a man among them who would repair the wall, stand in the gap before me on behalf of the land so I might not destroy it, but I found no one. When I thought, and I just saw this just from the political thing. What does it say? It exploits the, go back to the other one. Or to 30, Ezekiel 22:30. Or was that it? Yeah. What was it? He said exploits the foreign resident.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
you got it up there now.
Yeah. I don't know if we exploit the foreign residents. Maybe they're exploiting us. That's the theory. That's interesting call.
Both ways.
That can work both ways, yeah. So, figure that one out. All right, so that's the consequences of not serving the poor. I just had some thoughts here, and then we're going to get into the more personal side of what we can do. The thoughts. Proverbs 29:7. The righteous person knows the rights of the poor, but the wicked one does not understand these concerns. And the righteous person knows the rights of the poor, but the wicked does not understand. Now, I know we're not wicked in here, but I would say it's easy not to understand some of the concerns of the poor. So that just keep that in mind. Luke 6:32. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And then I think, was it 32? Maybe it was 33 too. But anyway, and if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is it that to you, for even sinners do the same? So, sometimes as we get, I think, we get caught up in kind of doing the easy things sometimes. So now let's talk about what we can do ourselves. Here's the world situation. Or first, let me talk about this is kind of what some guys in the past did. Anybody know the history of Sunday school? Did that start in church? Actually, it didn't. So it started in, I've read about this guy before. It's like 1757, Robert Raikes. He was in England, and he saw, they used to use child labor there, and they would work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And he was doing something, and he saw all these urchins. And these were the orphans. So they weren't ones that, they had no choice, but they were working them hard. And they were getting in trouble on Sundays. So he started Sunday school and started to teach them how to read, and they would study the Bible. And this just took off because these kids needed help, and they started liking it. And they started learning how to read and became educated. And then the next generation would help them learn how to read. It's just a whole long story here. I always thought Sunday school started in church. But so Robert Raikes saw the issue at the time that this is where you could help. Another guy, George Mueller, he was big on helping the orphans. And he did a bunch. This was in 1820. I probably should have found some more that are a little more recent, but he saw the orphan situation, and he built orphanages. And one of the things he did was he only prayed for money. He didn't go out and ask for contributions. People just came to him, and he built like 5 orphanages, and he didn't live on merit. He lived on a very minimal amount, and it's a long thing there. But my point is that he saw the needs at that time. Okay, so our situation. The world situation kind of is I do those notes, and I'm part of it. 8 to 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day, and this is going to be happening for the next 19 years. It said. How long do they think Social Security is going to last? Who knows? That's a big argument. It goes on and on. And how much longer do women live than men? 6-7 years. So there's going to be a whole lot of chances here in the future where you can help widows who are going to be having issues, because Social Security is going to have its issues. And they're having issues. It's having issues now. And there's a lot of people now that don't have the money to retire, and man, they can make you live forever. My mom right now is in a nursing home. It's $5,000 a month for just her, and she just gets along. I don't even know if you call it living, but anywhere she goes, she pushes a button, they help her go there. She eats, she comes back, she sits down, and that's pretty much what she does. Takes her pain meds and just keeps it going. And she's in Nebraska where my stepdad is, and he's there too. So it's about $12,000 a month. Fortunately, he has money. And when he passes away, she doesn't get any of his stuff. She's going to come down here, and she has a house worth $60,000, a little bit of money in the bank, and that's about it. So then we got to figure out how we can help her the best. But I think this is just an example of where this is all going to come to. I mean, sometimes we say, well, we wish the government wouldn't do so much, but when you got this many people turning 65 with no money, that means a bunch of us that have money are going to be having to move in with us, I guess. I don't know what else they're going to do. And it's not just going to be family, because a bunch of them don't have family. So it'll be interesting where that goes. But that being aside, the thing where we can make the biggest difference is right now is that the foster kid situation. Anybody know anything about that? It's not good. The state's cutting back its money, which is good or bad. We don't want the state to go bankrupt, so that's good. But these numbers have shot up, and whenever the economy slows down, you get more foster kids. And why are kids Why are kids called foster kids? What puts them in that category?
Your parents are not able to take care of
Neglected, abused, and abandoned. That's foster kids. Plenty of them out there. It's just a rough world. Do you think if you've been neglected, abused, and abandoned, you trust people? That's a pretty tough situation. Are we all cut out to be foster parents? Probably not. So the thing of it is that, you know, it's always fun to do fun things. You know, you have a cake sale and that kind of stuff. It helps the poor. You send money to the missionaries and that kind of stuff. But if you want to do something, just think about trying to help someone who, when you're, you know, and you go to, and I'm not taking anything away from this, but you go to Mexico and you got all the little kids that come up and hug you and thank you, and you can see you're helping them. There's a certain amount of feedback from that that's good. Just think if you go help a kid out and you're talking to him. As I had one, I helped on a thing that was called FARM, Firefighters as Role Models. This was like 10 years ago. And I had this kid that he was assigned to me at the school, and we would try to help him out. His mom was in a wheelchair. He was big for his age, and he was a bully in the class, and his mom was in a wheelchair, and I can't remember whether his dad or his uncle committed suicide. But he didn't have a dad, and I think his uncle was helping out, and he committed suicide. So he was kind of a bully, and they were trying to get him to, you know, and I went and talked to this kid. I'd go talk to him at the school, and we were kind of friends, and he kind of, you know, I was a firefighter, blah, 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 but he never trusted me. Never did. Even after that time. I saw him on a call about 2 years later. It was a shooting downtown. One of his buddies got shot. He was in a gang. But just think about helping someone that doesn't really, that's a kid. This is a kid too. This is not an adult. Adults can be even worse or harder even to help. But someone who, when you're trying to help them, they don't trust you. And they've been taught not to trust you. And when you, after you've talked to them, they still don't trust you. And they don't even care if you're there. Is that what, are those kids like that?
Sounds like my class.
Yeah, that's the class. Those are the kids that, and I told about the class in the other day, and in Sunday school class, we went to this charter school, and we went there, and the gal was having a mental seizure. It wasn't a true seizure. True seizure is where you have activity in your brain and you're pretty much wiped out. A lot of people have them, they take meds for it. This was a pseudo seizure of a mental seizure. She would act like she was having a seizure. And we go to those, and we're just like everybody else. Like, again, the fire department people are good about making ourselves look good, but we're just as bad as the rest. And I'm thinking in my mind, sure, pseudo seizure, all right, you just need to straighten up and pay attention, you know. And so her mom came, and we're talking to her, you know, and she's doing this jerking stuff, and some of them are kind of faking, but this one was a little bit different. And so then we asked the mom, well, what brought on these pseudo seizure kind of things? You know, was it an event or something? And she said, well, her and her sister was there, watched my husband, their father, kill their sister. This isn't a lie. I'm not making anything, I can't make this stuff up. And I don't think it was a stabbing or anything. It might have been, we didn't ask any farther, but it might have been a shaking baby syndrome or something like that. So is that a person it's not her fault? Because she has mental issues and she's needy. And I don't know. I just think it's tough, and I always like to have good positive feedback where somebody really appreciates it when I give them my time and stuff. You know, you love going to little kids and they really appreciate it. What about these needy people like this, or like the foster kids? You know, it's tough enough as a teenager growing up, and when you don't trust anybody and you don't have any parents and you were abandoned. What do we do with them? Do we have any? If they're abandoned, or if they're neglected, was it their fault that they were neglected or abandoned or abused by an adult? They do, and who's bringing in Christ to them?
I try to in my job.
Well, I'll tell you a place that's bringing Christ to them. One of them that's right here with us is Gene Shaw, and they have that Christian Ranch thing down there. A lot of us have helped down there, and they're trying to work a situation in there to where they help foster kids, and they get the government's help, which is good, and they get a lot of donations. And here's the thing that I think could be done. People can check it out. Don't be like the one thing that said I forget where it was, where you don't understand the poor, you don't understand what's going on. We need to try to understand. And they can explain to you some of the situation down there. You can see the kids. They have foster parents that take care of these kids, and they have 3 or 4 foster kids that they live with 24/7. Now those people are something, but they need a break now and then, a respite parents. So anyway, something to look into. That's something where you can go down, find out what's going on. Gina and them will explain it to you. Here's my, I got to spin this around. I wish my wife had been here so you could read it. The summary of my time I've spent with you here. Come on, get around here. Do something miserable for Christ. Now, I know what you're all thinking right now. You're thinking, that's a pretty snappy little deal, and it's probably going to go on bumper stickers and T-shirts and all that, you know. But it's something to think about. And the thing that I need to add to this that I didn't want to distract from it first was do something, think about it, and do it with a friend. Why do you want to do it with a friend? For one reason, it makes it a lot less miserable. What did you say?
Misery loves company.
Yeah, but you know, it makes it a lot easier. It does. And you can talk about the kids that didn't respond to you, and you can see and you can share that with people, because you're not going to get a lot of positive feedback from those kids. They're not going to trust you when you leave. They might. You might actually make a big difference in somebody's life. But you're not going to make it sending it to missionaries. As much as we love missionaries, you make some of it. But the whole thing of it is you're not going to get this feeling of helping people as much as I firmly believe that when you do something that's difficult, you feel a lot better about yourself, and it's much more productive. I mean, you can go to 1,000 cake sales, and not taking away from the cake sale people, but you're not going to get the same feeling as if you get down there and talk to some of those kids and just knowing you're trying to understand them, and you are blessed. I've been so blessed. I had 2 parents, and reasonable parents. They didn't neglect me. They didn't abandon me. My mom spanked me, which wasn't good, but no, it probably was good. But you know what I mean? So do something miserable. You'll be glad you did, I think. It's just a challenge that I have. And here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. If you figure out something miserable to do because I'm making this up, coming up with this, let me know. I'll do it with you. I really will. And we'll go do something, and we'll be proud of it. And we may not be able to tell a lot of other people about it, but that will be something that you have with a friend that nobody else has if you go talk to foster kids. And these kids got some bad old stories, and then they bring even worse stuff on themselves. But all right, any thoughts? Well, when you see this on a bumper sticker, you'll know where you heard it first. I'm not sure how fast it's going to go. All right. No thoughts. Let's pray real quick. Oh, well, let's do that circle thing.